Hey there, Improvement Nerds. Welcome back to the Improvement Nerd Podcast, the place where we explore ideas, tools, and experiences that help us improve the way work gets done. Today, I'm joined by Scott Payne, founder of All In PM Prep. Scott is a former Lean Six Sigma black belt and process improvement consultant who built his PMP training program after seeing firsthand how traditional PMP often focuses more on memorization than true understanding. In this episode, we talk about how project management really works in practice, why the PMP exam can challenge even experienced improvement professionals, and why true understanding matters more than memorizing terms. So whether you're thinking about pursuing your PMP certification or just looking to strengthen how you lead projects and improvement work, you're going to get a lot out of this conversation. So all right, Improvement Nerds, let's jump in with Scott Payne as we continue to wage war on bad process. All right, welcome back, Improvement Nerds. We are back at it again, and today we are joined by Scott Payne, and we are going to be talking about project management, the PMP exam. As we know, projects are involved in everybody's life. If we're in the improvement sciences, we're probably really familiar with projects, project management, and we'll discuss a little bit about the different uses of projects within Lean Six Sigma, within Agile, all that type of stuff. But I am just so super pumped up and excited to be joined by Scott Payne, and you'll see why in this episode. But hi, Scott, how are you doing today?
What's up, Mark? I feel like I'm a little bit like I'm home back with Lean and Six Sigma nerds. That's where I grew up. So hopefully we don't disappoint, and let's jump into it.
All right, awesome. Well, I'm just curious, how did you get your start in project management?
By necessity. I was a merchant mariner as an operating engineer at sea for like 3-4 years, like working with my hands. I'm not the greatest with my hands. I'm good systems thinker, those kind of things, but turning wrenches, that's my brother and my dad, not me. And I figured that out pretty hard. So I got out of shipping and then I went to work at a big shipyard. And from there, I was a quality guy and bumped into Lean and all these other things like out of necessity and fell in love. I went to a bunch of trainings, Lean Enterprise Institute, and started running little baby projects in plants, saying like, oh gosh, like it seems like we can make this better kind of stuff. And just trying to help out the craftsmen and women down there, finding little things, setting up different, little setups here. And from there, I goofed around, messed up a bunch, and figured out there's got to be a better way to run things. Then got into like, well, how can I organize them? How can I manage them? How can I keep from failing? Same stories that everybody has. And so after that, I started getting in Lean Six Sigma consulting, went on the road for a while. The Delta lounges are cool for a couple of weeks, then it gets, boring. And then, came home, and to get off the road, to finish the story, I had to get a PMP for the job. And then that was a terrible experience. And taught myself, wrote a little baby book to myself to kind of medicate, and then started doing the job, running more projects, really thinking as a craft, and then teaching and running projects. So that's kind of the whole evolution of how I got here. Not necessarily by design, I would say.
Well, yeah. I don't know if it's ever by design, right? But I find it super interesting that for those who might have missed the introduction, Scott is a guru with PMP and instructing others in how to pass their PMP certification. But I find it fascinating that your own experience with that was you felt like you hit a brick wall. And I have probably that same type of experience myself. What helped you get past that? And what clicked for you to say, you know what, not only can I get through this and get my exam done, but I think I can help others?
Yeah. Well, there was two things. One was a swift kick in the butt from my wife. Okay. And then, so like I was on the road, like I said, I went to a class, like a boot camp, and I think y'all teach Lean Six Sigma stuff. There are some people that probably teach it in not the way that y'all do. That's like, hey, come for a day, do 8 hours, we'll get it done. You'll learn everything. You'll be a green belt, black belt, whatever belt in 0 seconds or whatever. I kind of went to one of those boot camps where it was like PMP, where it's like going by my head, didn't seem like I was even in the room with the people. And I was like, this is not working for me. I feel dumber every second and I want to give up. And so, but I had a problem. I had to get off the road for my, new family. And basically just said, okay, I got it. So my wife said, this is a kick in the butt part, said, you're supposed to be smart at fixing things and making things better and easier. Why don't you do it now? or either just stop being like gripey. And I was like, all right, thanks. Appreciate that. Could have been nicer about it. But went to the PMBOK, read it, and was like, okay, all right. It's like the phone book, but boringer. And then I started ripping it apart and organizing it. And then I started thinking about it like, there are guys out there and girls running projects. How are they doing it? There has to be genius in here. I just got to find it. And so I ripped it up, literally reorganized it, punched holes, and then was like, if I had to simplify this and explain it to a dude on the floor, how would I do it? And then that's the kind of genesis of like my teaching to myself was like, how do I make this simple for somebody else that they could use? And then I started thinking about my own life and I was like, oh, I ain't doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. Not that I had to do everything, but I was like, I probably wouldn't have as many landmines in front of me if I would have done some of this stuff. And so that's kind of how it went for me. And then that's just how we teach. I mean, probably we don't know each other that well, Margit, but like, that's probably how you guys, you're trying to make it practical. You're trying to make it usable. You're trying to think of like realistic things. So that's the way I think about and teach and stuff like that.
That's one of the things I really like and appreciate. And that is what we do with Lean Six Sigma too. That could be quite intimidating learning that. So we like to take complexity and break that down into simplicity the best that we can. And maybe you and I might have been in the same boot camp. I don't know.
Yeah,
Many
possible. There's a lot of great marketers out there. There's a lot of great marketers and a lot of bad teachers, but I'm not talking trash unless you want to get off camera. So we're good.
Well, I mean, if you're embarking on taking your PMP exam and you just type in PMP prep, you're going to get a lot of hits and there's going to be a lot of value offerings that seem really great. You know, you take this type of boot camp and if you don't pass, you'll get the money back or you'll get, you know, they'll pay for your next time to go, whatever it might be. And, you know, I signed up for one of those and I was in a cohort of about 30 people and it was a PMI sanctioned slide deck that someone was kind of just scrolling through and like you, I just didn't have the best experience with that. Like it just wasn't driving home for me, the content. And I became disinterested real quickly that go around. And I didn't even take the PMP exam after taking that boot camp. It wasn't until maybe a couple of years later down the line that I actually went for it. And then when I did go the second time, I knew I had to study differently. And that's where I found you and started listening to you and your content. And maybe we're just wired the same and I'm just super excited about that. But you know, I wanted to give a platform on the Improvement Nerds podcast here for our audience to get introduced to you. If there's any out there that are seeking a PMP certification in the future. But what I really liked your approach was how you break things down into real world situations and you value the understanding more than just the memorization. So can you talk to me just a little bit about that value of understanding more than just rote memory?
Yeah, I think this applies to everything that we're doing, what you guys are doing, what we're doing, and you know, we're in the middle, is like, can we put it into practice? Because at the end of the day, like, why is someone getting a green belt, black belt? Why is someone studying lean? Why is someone like getting a PMP? I think at the end of the day, and that's one of the first questions that we start with, because it's the question I asked. I had a specific reason: get off the road, get home with the family, be better at my job, more independence in a sense. So a lot of these people have the same thing. So if you're thinking about better job, better performance, better whatever, they make books for a reason. You could just buy a book, put it on a desk, but it doesn't talk back to you. So like, if you can't use it, talk the talk, walk the walk, and learn through the process, then it's a fruitless exercise, whatever we're doing, like my kids at school or whatever. And so when I think about teaching our students, I understand if you got the right answer and the wrong answer. That's super cool. Like, how did you get there so that you could put it into practice? And what are you trying to get out of it? And what are you learning? I think in our pre-calls, when we met each other a little bit, I was really stuck by like you said, learning PMP and learning other things help you realize things about yourself. And so having an understanding of like why we're doing stuff, you know, it's not just how we run projects, but it's also how we get better as people, not to be too romantic about it. But I think there's a reason, like, this stuff is fun and sexy and we do it more than we spend time with our family, weirdly. So we might as well just like go deep into it and have fun.
Yeah. And I appreciate that, you know, sometimes the materials that are out there aren't very fun to listen to. And I just found your energy to be fun to listen to. It really helped me. I think, again, like I said, with my wiring, your approach, And since you brought it up, I will mention that I did struggle with the PMP exam, or at
Yeah.
least studying for it. And I came to learn something about myself. I've been doing Lean Six Sigma forever, and that's my wheelhouse. I don't even know if I use the word project actually for
Yeah.
my whole vocation. But, more recently in consulting, we are using that type of language, but we're practically doing the same types of things. But there's real value in getting that PMP certification if you're going to do any type of consulting work and speaking the language that businesses may be more familiar with. So when I decided to go back and get my PMP, I was really struggling with the situational based questioning. So there are different tips, tricks, and techniques, and we'll probably dive into those a little bit.
Sure.
One is there's a plug-in to your Chat GPT where you can get PMI plugged into your Chat GPT and it'll ask
Okay.
you questions.
Yeah.
And the type of questions it's asking is very straightforward questions. What tool would you use for this or causing that, whatever it might be? And if you're asking me questions like that, I'm going to ace this exam. I'm going to be super confident.
Right.
And, I've been using these tools for many, many years, but when I start having to place my mind in a scenario where Johnny's talking to Susie and they're having some kind of conflict and they're trying to decide on a tool, building that story, my mind seems to exit at that point. And,
Right.
there's a lot of questions on this exam, and it's not a cheap
Sure.
exam. And that can cause even more anxiety, more frustration, because you feel like you know it, but you don't know it, and you don't know how to, kind of angle into this exam. And oddly enough, I was speaking with someone and they said, you know what, maybe it sounds like you might have ADHD. And
Oh, wow.
I got tested for that and found out I did, so it was good to understand that about myself and then
Yeah.
go to the exam, understanding and knowing and coming up with some tricks for myself that helped me to kind of get through that. So even taking the exam, I just learned a lot about myself personally in my journey. So I just thought I would share that.
The
And
boner.
I also was in a study cohort locally where I think some people were struggling with the same thing, the scenario-based questioning.
Yeah.
And that's why I like your approach too, is if you understand it, like in math, if you're showing your work and you're
Yeah.
saying how you got from the start to the finish, then you're going to understand it enough that whatever situation you're plopped into, you're going to know how to navigate that. Rather than if you're just memorizing, A plus B equals C, then if they throw in some kind of weird scenario, you're not going to know how to respond or how to answer that question. So I do appreciate that approach.
Yeah. That's cool, man. I think in like pictures, like, I don't know why I'm not the greatest reader, but like, I think in pictures a lot. And so the picture that I have in my head that helps students, and I was going to ask you a question about lean practice or Six Sigma in a second, but I tell the students, hey, picture that you jump out of a plane, like it's safe, don't worry. And you land in a factory or a company in who knows where.com. Like you're in Des Moines today, you're in Maine tomorrow, whatever. You give that client and you just like lock eyes, like what kind of place are we walking into? You got nowhere to be but them. Like lock them in the eyes and then close your mouth. Listen to like what the question's actually asking. There's always in these scenarios like a little bit of superfluous information. You take that away and then you're like, what at the crux of it? What's going to help them later? Because you're getting ready to leave to walk to another client. So lock in on them, talk to them, and then you got 180 other clients to go see, 179. And then you don't take the baggage from the previous one to the next client, like in real client life.
Yeah.
And then you're looking at them, you're like, okay, what is the crux of the issue here? Is it a people issue? Is it like, hey, we're not following the process? We don't understand how we're doing. There's defects, whatever it is, what's going on? So you can kind of diagnose at the lowest possible level. And the other metaphor that we kind of try to use is try to train another. So a lot of people with all these internal stresses, and this might relate to, I don't know, stuff outside of PMP, like the timing, oh my God, if I fail, I literally thought, what would my mom say if I failed the PMP? So as a 30-something-year-old man, I was like, what is my mom going to say? Like, that's mildly embarrassing. I don't know what's wrong with me. But if you take it outside of yourself and you're like, if I had to advise a younger person, what would I tell them to do to take care of them? And if you start putting in those lens, then you just become like a project consultant 180 times. And you're like, oh, I do this for a living.
Right.
And so that's what I already do. In a sense, that's the way I kind of think about stuff to teach questions. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great thing one way to master something is to teach it. Again, with me joining that cohort, I think one of the things that helped me with being in that cohort was there were aspects of the PMP exam that some people would struggle with, whether it was like the cost of scheduling, indexing, and indexing for me comes super natural, right? So I'm like, the one's good, or, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And being able to articulate that and break it down for someone else, I think really helps to build your confidence and understand the material a little bit better, and vice versa. There's others in the cohort that could explain and break down things for me, but there are pressures, right? Like, so
Right.
my wife actually took the exam a year, I think, before I took the exam, and she passed it with flying colors. She's a
Nice.
reader. I mean, she just opened up the
Yeah.
inbox. She'll read the thing top to bottom and highlight and then read it again and read it 8 more times. And then she went in and took the test, passed it, got above expectations in every single category.
Yeah.
And then here I am sometime after, and I'm studying and I'm struggling with this book. And there's an extra pressure there, like, what if I don't pass? Am I a lesser person in the household? Because I mean, she made it seem so easy, but luckily I did.
And like 5 or 6 husband wives come together every single time the woman's finished faster. It's like, it's weird. I don't know why. I don't know why. I'm not that smart to know why, but we just haven't won yet. The guys haven't won yet. It's okay. Maybe next time. The one thing I realized, like, to not make this totally about PMP stuff is I started to, I don't know who I learned this from, but they were saying, like, as we learn stuff, and we'll see if you agree, like, there's different levers or muscles that one could use. And I figured out I was using the wrong muscles. And so, like, initially I was using brute force, like not physical muscle, but I was like, hit the book harder, memorize more. And then I started to move, and that was like just putting more time, more effort, more questions, more whatever, like facts, facts, facts. And it was just surface. And then I started going up, well, I'll make acronyms. I'll make organizations. So the first thing was like, work hard, use your muscles. The second one was like, use my management skills, or whatever you want to call them, or strategies, to like acronyms or little games or whatever. And that was cool. And then as I started to break it down in my head, I started to come up with a story about, it's called like a John story. My buddy John, who's a consultant with me in different ways, I was like, he's a great project manager. What if I put him as a young dude making mistakes? And so then I started to talk it out to be like, John, hey, if you were doing this, you probably would do. So I was communicating. And once I started like calling him and communicating, and he was thankful enough just to listen to me, I started going down these different paths. So I went from managing or organizing like these little structures to like communicating. And then as I did that, I started to like envisioning or imagining. And so like the highest level, what I'm trying to get to anytime I learn something, is that communication and imagination level, where you have to have the foundations like, oh, you don't know what a cause and effect diagram is? Okay, you have to know what that is.
Right.
Oh, Fishbone, Ishikawa, cool, yeah. Now we go up to like, how could it work? How could you implement it? How would it go through? How would you facilitate it? When would you use it? Why would you use it? What's a scenario? How could it go bad? And you start to like walk down these paths, and your brain, I think it grows. I'm not a doctor or anything, but like, to get to those communication and imagination levels, I think is what helps us kind of like become professionals in whatever, I think.
Yeah. And I think, again, that's what I appreciate about your style. And, maybe your style's for some people, not for other people. And you just you got to find the right style. Right. And
Yeah.
for me, I'm really a hands-on person.
Yeah.
And even when I was going to the local cohort for this, practice study, it's like, why don't we just set this up? If people are struggling with a Kanban, well, that's super simple. Let's just put some tape up on the wall and have our discussion flow through a Kanban. And then they can understand how there is a pull and how you move stuff through different phases of a project or whatever. And when you see it and you interact with it, you understand it better. And then when the question pops up, you're not trying to conceptualize something you haven't touched before, but you've actually touched it. What would you suggest if there's someone studying for their PMP or embarking on project management work and they haven't actually used the tool sets? How would you suggest that they prepare or study for something like that, other than maybe just using the tool?
Yeah, I kind of like that, like a little bit. It's kind of hard to like put, sometimes you're like, round hole and whatever, you're trying to force it, but I don't think there's a bad thing to do in that respect. It's always to ask, when would I use this? Why would I use this? How would it work? How would it fail? Kind of picturing that out. And then saying like, you have to be kind of, I think the individual has to be courageous in the sense of like, okay, this Kanban thing, you're not even worried about saying the word wrong, right? Like it's a Japanese word, whatever. But it's like, okay, could I set up a Kanban board at home for all the things I've got to do? Can I do that? Oh, what's this whip limit thing? Can I try to do that and see how it affects me? I think that, and I would ask you guys about how you teach and how you bring these things to life in a second. But I think one of the things that helped me learn the most, and I don't want this to be about me, is like we build our own software. I'm not a software guy. I barely know the passwords to my own websites. Okay. I think I have guys and guys that help me with that. But like we build our own stuff using Scrum, and we use Kanban some when it's not, right to use Scrum. But we've learned by crashing, burning, and lighting money on fire for a long time to say like, oh, I'm the product owner. I've been the Scrum master for different episodes for 6 months at a time. And like actually going through and working and building functional, real things for real students and going like, you got to walk the walk, the talk the talk. So you don't have to start a company and, run up a dev team or do those kind of things, but try to do whatever you're trying to do it. Try to build a Kanban board, try to use a fishbone diagram, try to use a blah, 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 blah. Like just do it and fail a lot quickly.
Oh, yeah. There's such a parallel there with lean, right? You fail fast, you learn faster. But I always thought it would be interesting, as I'm in the car, maybe listening to you or whatever, my mind drifts. But thinking of different ways to teach this, like with the Kanban board, let's just set that up and have people maneuver through it.
I could show you all the stuff. So we've been building tools like this all the time. Like we actually did build different tools to say, hey, put it in the right place. Cause there are different, like my brains seem to be the same, but our wives are different brains. Like it sounds like they're both readers. My wife does not listen, not just to me, but she doesn't listen like in the podcast. So it's like, I have to, as we think about, I'm trying to relate this to like the listener, right? The people out there, they're probably running projects and they have the lens of what makes sense to them. They kind of have to have, and it's challenging. Like understanding who am I dealing with? What's their preferred learning style? How can I adapt a little bit to get them to get the communication in the right way, to see the things, to see the value, to be involved in a way that'll like hit them in the heart so that you can have that advocate and that extra brain on your project. Or, I'm not like a project nerd in the sense that everything's got to be a project. I was a lean guy. So it's like, let's deliver something of value, and that's agile. So trying to think about.
I was just kind of, fantasizing about if I were to teach a class off the project management course, what would I do? And someone could steal this idea totally, but
I'm going to steal it if it's good. Keep going.
Okay. I think it would be fun if you did have a cohort of folks coming through learning that you just get a bunch of different color baseball caps. And because it's not only the tools that you have to learn, it's, who's the product owner, who's the project manager, what are the customers, the different stakeholders, and just label the hats. So I'm the product owner, I'm the sponsor, I'm the champion, whatever it might be. And they act in that role, and they can switch hats, on different days that they come in or whatever. But you have to be almost not only know the material, but understand the mindset of what the sponsor is thinking. So that maybe the project manager comes to you in a scenario and you say, wait, that has nothing to do with me. You would go to this other person, right? And so maybe that would help them to, okay, I'm not going to bug the sponsor on this one. The appropriate person to go to would be this other individual. So I'm sure that we can nerd out on different.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, you're just talking improvement nerds. We can talk anything, right? There's no bounds. Like we can talk whatever.
There's no bounds. So this is all improvement science. So if we're making something better for someone at work, then we're good.
Yeah, because my last couple of years has been like deep agile. Like that's all, and it feels like back to lean. And it is lean. Like it's all flow based. That's what we're trying to do, and cut out like my guys can talk to me, I can talk to them, but like understand as soon as possible what the problem is and drive it through. And so, having what we do is we bring in our guys, our developers and our Scrum Master and product owner. And then we talk through like, hey, here's what we're building literally right now. Look at the Kanban board. It helps a little bit. I think your idea is even better to say, okay, so here's a decision that Alex Scrum Master had today. Here's the problem that he had. What you put the Alex Scrum Master hat on, what would you do? And just not even give them answers, give them free form. Like, what would you do? Oh, do you go talk to Scott? Do you go talk to the devs? Do you make a decision on your own? What up? And so I think we could do a little pre-work to frame like, hey, Alex, what's the last 6 things you had to do? Or Scott, what's the last decisions that you had to make or problems that you were thinking through as far as backlog refinement, whatever. I think that's a really good one. How do you guys give me like some, I want to learn how you guys do stuff. Like how do you teach Six Sigma stuff if you're cool talking about it?
We have many different ways and approaches of teaching, right? So I think
Okay.
that there's many ways and approaches of learning. So we have to have a multiplicity in our styles of teaching as well. So
Yeah.
we have an e-learning, we have stuff that you can go and just read, maybe for our wives or readers, they can go in and read something, understand it. We have quizzes, that sort of stuff. And
Okay.
you can absorb the material that way. We also do in-person teachings. So some of it's didactic. So we'll just be up in the front of the room and we're going to explain this concept to you. And like you, we try to make things relatable. So we do a lot of analogous type of teaching so that it relates to people at work. And I think everybody at work can relate to having a bad day or having bad processes in their work. So they get energized to have an ear to listen for what tools and methods might be able to help them out. And then we also have what we call HOPE, hands-on project experience. So we'll run them through maybe how to complete a project and maybe on an A3 format, and we'll mentor them. So we'll just not only teach that in the classroom setting, but we will help them properly scope a problem statement and get them going on actually doing something in their job and mentor them for about 60 to 90 days through a project. And so that they get their hands dirty with some of the tools. So it's a multifaceted approach to teaching. And what we like to do is tailor as much as we can to the organization or to the individuals that are learning our style so that we deliver the maximum amount of value.
I dig it.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Thank you.
That's super cool.
Yeah. So the PMP, I mean, that's just a ton of information to try to, even if you're working in it, you might be reduced to the same concepts. And you're like, oh, I use that a little bit differently, but okay, I got to learn it this way. And now, for those who don't know, the PMP certification, the project management professional certification, just says, hey, look, I know how to do project work, so I'm going to be of value to your organization in helping you maneuver through a project. And there is a standardized test for that. And that test now has gone through many different iterations. And now there is a new body of knowledge. So I think it's the 8th edition PMBOK.
Yeah. True. Yeah.
Do you have any insight into that? And then what?
Yeah. I mean, what's that? Was that the question I posed?
Do you have any insight into that 8th edition and what has shifted, or what new information there, or what could we brain dump from the previous edition?
Yeah, 100%. It's like a constant evolution. So 8 revisions, it's getting more and more like attuned to like delivering value, systems thinking, really, really focused on like how we manage people and lead off of. And one of the key architects, there's a lot of people that have put a lot of time into it, like Mike Hannon, Jesse Fell, like a bunch of different guys, like and women, fantastic thinkers out there paving the way for this. So all hats off go to them. The big thing is to get away from just processes and tools and stuff like that, where traditionally, I think that's how people thought about project management, do all these things, these documents, etc. And now it's kind of like delivering value, the outputs, the business, like, connection, and, how we have a sustainable result. So the whole kind of evolution to 8, and they speak better than I on this, is kind of getting away from that rigid, must do it this way, cookbook style, if you don't follow this, you fail, to the reality of our goal is to deliver outcomes for our business. And we're focused on value there, and we will navigate the best way possible. And so people, they get all freaked out about all the evolutions. I see them as a constant, drive toward a cleaner view of how things operate. And I know the people that are doing it are really good at it. And the exam's changing. I don't ever get excited about that. It's still scenario based. They're going to have more things that are going to be like, hey, diagnose this scenario, diagnose this diagram. That just forces us to think about what we're using, why we're using it, how it provides insights. And so I think it's all good as we go.
Yeah, it sounds good. And I think now more than ever, just, with the external environmental factors that are happening, delivering on an ROI and articulating value is so super important in this day and age. So I'm happy to see that adjustment if that's what's going on, is like, how is it that we are delivering value through this project work? And
Yeah.
what are the critical pieces that we are using to demonstrate the value, and then articulating that up to demonstrate the value in a
And
meaningful.
like, I think that's beautiful. I don't even jump on you, but like when I was talking to Mike Cannon, one of the architects who kind of created the book, the new version, he was talking about really pushing to change the definition of what a project is. Like instead of like a finite episode that you put all these things to practice. I don't want to repeat the basic things, but he was pushing hard for like it being an investment to deliver value. And
Yeah.
so thinking of it that way, I try to like think of like myself as an investment manager. Like I run a company, you run a company with your partners, and the money that we spend is like it can be put 1,000 different ways. I could go buy golf clubs if I wanted to, but like we're going to put it into products and processes to make our students learn better and easier. Same thing with these other things. You're stewarding these investments in a way to get max value out for the customer. So we got to understand who our personas are. We got to understand, why we're spending money on, not just to fill up documents, but how do we deliver value? So that's kind of what I take from it. And I hope that, others do as well.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. Not that I want to take the test over again,
No, I wouldn't
but
recommend.
I'm excited to hear about that. A lot of what we do in Lean and some of the certifications that are out there from rather large organizations, it's more of, when would you use this?
Right.
Analysis of variation or design of experiments, or, they're giving you questions on these more technical, statistical type things. And when you get into the real world, it's really that one person on the team that's the tough nut to crack, and you're coming out with statistics in your brain, but you don't know how to take this person's mindset and kind of flip it and show them what's in it for them and the value that you're going to create for them, and get them not only to go from being a derailer to being a champion for what you're doing.
Right.
That human piece is not really, or hasn't really been, the focus of a lot of the curriculum, at least in Lean Six Sigma. And we like to, our curriculum and the way we teach is really about not only the tools and methods, but,
Right.
We say that the people are the work. So it's, how do we make the connections? How do we establish trust? And how do we open that door to be able to even teach these concepts? Because if you're not allowed in to be able
Right.
to teach to someone, you may have the best PowerPoint presentation in the world, but if the person's sitting there with their arms crossed, you're just not going to get through. So I'm liking the shift. My hope is that in the Lean Six Sigma world as well, that starts to shift to more of a people-centric type of approach. So I really like that. What are, going maybe back to the PMP exam, what would you say are some of the common mistakes that you see people making? Maybe that you tried the exam, maybe didn't pass the first time. What are some pitfalls or some landmines someone might encounter?
I mean, there's a couple of different like anti-patterns that exist. Like the number one that we currently go with is they put themselves outside of the exam. They say like, this is what PMI wants me to think. Okay. And so they don't put themselves inside. And I think we've talked about that in there, is that like, they see it as, well, I have to do this for 4 hours and then I'll go back to my regular life. That's the real world. And then like, it's almost like they don't think that the real world has a significant amount of variation and a significant amount of like what you talked about. How do you read the body language of a sponsor that's like this versus like leaned in, or the language that they use? And so if you leave yourself out of it, it's safer because you get to blame PMI for all the, the questions you get wrong, but you don't learn and you don't walk away with like that self-discovery, and you probably fail anyway. So that's double bad. And so if you put yourself into it, and then the other thing is we have to really think about the scenarios, or we have to follow a distinct process. So how we take on questions, just to give you two, is we really kind of like segment it from above the fold to below the fold. I don't want the answers to dictate how I run my thinking. I want the students to go up to the top and use their own brain to say, start with the end in mind. What are they actually asking for? Can I distill that down? Then go back to the body, just like I'm looking at a problem. And I'm starting to through A3 thinking, like, what are the facts? What do they give me? What can I surmise, like logically? What can I start developing basic root cause on? What can I go there? And then what do I believe is below the fold? What would I do? So if they don't go through that pattern, then they end up spinning their tires, wasting a bunch of time just reading or doing other things for the sake of doing it. And they don't actually think about how they put stuff into practice. But if they do that, then they become the star of the show and they start challenging their own assumptions and their own knowledge to say, hey, given this scenario, this is what I think the real problem is. Cool. Put your flag on it. Then you go, this is what I might want to do. Super cool. Then you go down to the answers. And if some of them are, you're not looking for just agreement. You're looking for, oh, okay, that's an interesting perspective. It aligns or it doesn't align. So I think the big thing is how we look at the content and how we go through the questions is the big thing. And lastly, how you get support. No one, I don't think, I did it alone. It sounds like you did it kind of alone. It's not as much fun and it's not as, I don't know, it's just harder. So like doing it with other people that are there to guide you the whole time, I think is super important. So those are 3 things in a meandering way that I think.
No, that's great. And as you were talking, I was just thinking about going back to teaching with the hats, and if there is a project manager baseball cap, I might just put that on when I go to take the test.
Yeah.
Just to
yeah. I mean, if you see yourself as that and you see yourself, I'm working at a Fortune 500 company, I'm going to lead like really detailed projects. I'm not going to run straight into fires. I'm going to stop back and think. I mean, these are good things that you can take into your life. Like as a guy that talks and you talk for a living, it's like teaching and thinking about these questions has caused me to be quiet a lot more in my personal life and I'm an introvert by nature, but like in my teams, like where instead of boom answers, I'm letting them talk. I'm thinking it through. I'm letting it marinate more. And I think that's a good general rule for all the folks out there to let the information come to them a little bit more. And we have to do the same thing with the question. There's just little micro episodes of how we think about life, I think.
I also liked what you said about creating a support system around you. My first attempt, which really wasn't an attempt, it was, I signed up for that boot camp.
Yeah.
I went through the 8 hours of that slide deck and said, you know what, I'm too busy for this. But on my second attempt, it was really trying to find the motivation to push myself to do it was difficult. And I found that there was a local chapter for PMI. And so I just plugged in with that, and there was some kind of accountability there to where I had to drive to a place to listen and learn. And so I found that to be helpful. So having accountability partners, and even within that group, you find a couple people within that group that you become interested in when they're going to take the test and they become interested and you're going to take it. I might start dipping my toe into maybe some tips, tricks, and techniques here for the PMI exam. But
sure,
one of the things is setting the date to take the exam. So like I said, I learned a lot about myself being ADHD. I'll just let things distract me until the point where I just don't do something. So if you're like that, what I would recommend is set a date, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you're ever, and I don't know what your experience is, because I'm sure you get a ton of feedback on people that have passed or maybe have not passed, but I don't think anyone ever feels like I've got all of this 100%. And now I'm ready to take the test, right? So
those are like, we need to set a reasonable date based on what you can actually spend studying. I love what you're saying, because it sets that finite thing, whether it's Parkinson's law that work fills the time allowed or whatever it is, or they get into like that student syndrome thing where I got to study the night before. If we can have accountability with a date, then we can pace it out kind of burn down chart wise and see how we're doing as we get there. But it kind of heightens the intensity. Like I got to sit down there. I got to do it. I got to get this over. This isn't a career. It's an elevator. So yeah, let's get it. I love that. What else you got, dude?
I like what you just said too. That might be something to write down if you're studying for the test. This is not a career. Don't make a career out of being a
student. Yeah,
a student for your PMI exam. So yeah, setting the date I think is super important. I know I set my date, and with the accountability partners, we're just making sure that we set dates and check in on each other.
Yeah.
Because I think you're never going to think that you know it enough. There's practice exams out there. There's practice exams on PMI. And you want to get to the 70, 80%, and I don't know. I don't know if you get there. I think my wife did, like she was getting 90, so whatever. But I think the majority of folks are, it's just like, you got to go in and at least attempt it, right? At some point in time. So that's one thing. I think another thing for me, and just again, in learning how my brain works and talking to others, is getting hung up on questions where you feel like maybe you didn't get that right. So the way I'm wired is, if I feel like I might know that question, but I'm not sure, and the best practice is like tag that and return to it later, when you have time. So that would still be my recommendation. However, in my mind, I can have several conversations going on. Like I'm having another one right now about something totally different than our podcast.
Yeah.
While taking the test or the practice test, I would notice that I'd be moving on to the next question, I'm on question 12, 13, 14, but I'm still thinking about question 5 because I had some doubt there. So what I found for me was just after every single question, I would say to myself internally, you got that. You did it. Awesome job. I would hit the tag at the bottom.
Tag it, come later, or flag it, or whatever.
I'd flag it, but I would just say to myself, you got that. You rocked that one.
You're layering in a lot of good. So first of all, like the confidence, like when we're taking tests, usually we get feedback, right, wrong, or if you're the coach, right, wrong. In the exam, the devil inside of us will take over. Like you said, like when I play golf, say I shoot a 91 or whatever, I won't remember the bunch of shots that are pretty good. I'll remember all the bad ones, right? And then like I had 8 shots, I hooked that into the woods or whatever. One's brain just snaps to the negative stuff. On the exam, a lot of people start thinking, oh, I missed that. You have no feedback. That's an incorrect assumption. You do not know if you got it wrong. Technically, you got 1 in 4 chance. And so if you keep that positivity, hey, I got it right. And then the metaphor that we use in our mind or visual is that you're not hauling around baggage. You got to leave those bags in that room and you got to go to the next one like free hands and take it on. And if you do find yourself like you and I think, have 7 conversations going at the same time, we have to find ways in the exam to slow ourselves down and like do breathing, whatever works for you to say, I'm going to take a break every 12 questions or 15 questions or whatever it is to kind of just like breathe out, reset, think about it, realign so you don't find yourself, oh my gosh, I'm out of these things. And additionally, because I imagine the conversation that you and I are having in our head and people out there, they're going to have those at work. So if you're not lining yourself up to conversations there, you're going to be off doing this, that, the phone, the whatever, and people are going to read that on you. And it's not going to be you're not going to be as successful as you possibly could like day to day.
Yeah. Showing up present in the moment.
Right.
Yeah. I think there's, some puffery in the question. So learning how to maybe cut through that. And like you said, understand what they're trying to get at, what they're really trying to ask here within the scenario is important. What are the tips, tricks, and techniques that you have as an expert? Is it always just guess C?
Yeah. I mean, well, you got it. We should have started with that. It's C. It used to be B. Now it's C. But yeah, there are some basic things like we want to understand the real problem. We want to go back to basics. We want to, make sure our documentation and all those things are updated, like in the heavily regulated projects. Like if it's a predictive nature, we got to play the game in a sense. Yeah. But in reality, it's respecting roles, respecting people, and then following like, distinct processes through. Like big picture stuff, we have more in-depth things. We don't look for we have like a fool's gold versus gold concept where a lot of like the natural reaction is like solve the problem, act quick, do those things. It seems to be a better answer choice to go back and just say, is that fool's gold? Feels good in the short, but is like the real thing is go back and understand. It all goes back to like, how do I root cause a problem and how do I move forward? And how do I bring people with me instead of force them to, drag them along? Those are the kind of big picture thinkings that we like to do. Yeah. And we have some other techniques and stuff, but I
think one of the big picture things that you alluded to maybe earlier in the conversation, I think that's super helpful is, being plopped down into a Fortune 500 company doing project work. So some of the things that I've heard surrounding the PMP exam is, well, I've been doing project management for many, many years and we never do this. We're never, creating this risk register, we're not doing these things. And I don't see the necessity to do that, but they're working in a very small organization.
Right.
So getting yourself into the mindset of the type of project scope that you're working on. So think of a multi-million-dollar project in a big organization. Yeah. It's going to take some time and you really need to be careful about all the steps and all the forms and all the pieces and components of getting through the project successfully. I think rather than fighting the exam content and saying like, this is not how I would deploy it or how I would do it, but putting yourself in the mindset of this is maybe how a larger organization or a bigger project should be done. So that what this is trying to do is prepare you to do the most, right? To the biggest and the best. So of course they're going to throw everything at you in the kitchen sink because It's not just the documentation that you're used to in your organization. They want to expose you to all the avenues and all the different approaches and all the different tools.
Yeah, I mean, if people want to think about it, the PMI is not sitting back behind a curtain like, "Ooh, I've been waiting for Joe Smith to show up so that I can challenge how they run projects at Raytheon." Like, that's not what they're doing, okay? Or XYZ Corporation. It is a generalized exercise to think through common scenarios and how we might go them. And so I think it might relate to like them being a little sensitive to, oh, this attacks like who I am as a person. I mean, to me, I take it as a positive thing. They're proud of what they do, but they're just like a little sensitive or maybe like a little worried that maybe they'll be judged. I can dig it, but we got to go off of this and say, hey, what if? Or like, how would this work? Or how would it benefit? What would be the thing to it? Because there will be situations where a big boss or anybody else will say, yo, I heard this thing about a risk register. I know this is like probably a random thing, but they're like, yo, should we be doing a risk register? And instead of saying, no, we don't do it that way, that's the way it lives, it's like, okay, what's the situation that made you think this? What are you experiencing now? Oh, we keep having these things pop up. Yeah, maybe we do need to align people on a big, long list of things that could explode. And if we want to go cray-cray, maybe we go to FMEA and stuff like that, like in a really detailed way. So open our minds, like how could these work instead of like trying to beat the exam or beat it into submission? That's a fruitless battle. It's not a real thing. It's real, but it's not like a person. It's just there to challenge our thinking.
Would you recommend the PMP exam for everybody or just those who are in project management?
Well, I don't know exactly who listens to this podcast. Like who are the like ideal folks who listen?
Well, you got my
What you
mom.
Okay, sweet. Mine will be listening later.
Yeah.
Couple. No, like I'm talking about roles. You know what I'm going? Yeah.
So this is all Lean Six Sigma. If you're doing Agile, if you're doing design thinking, if you're doing project management, there's a lot of PMPs already, hopefully listening to this.
Yeah.
So again, it's anyone that wants to nerd out about improving their work. And so anyone that's interested in removing the blockers, anyone that's interested in improving their processes, that's who should be listening to this podcast. And having a good project management framework can help you get from A to B, right? So it gives you a systematic way or an approach, whether that be a more of a waterfall or more of an agile type approach, depending on the situation of the project. It's adding tools to your toolbox to be able to use to not only make work better for yourself, but make work better for those around you, the teams you work with, and the organizations you work in.
I think you're making my case. Like, yeah, that's the kind of angle that I was going to talk about. It's a couple different things. If you're in the business of making things better, like you just talked about, I don't want to repeat everything you said, but like you're a lean person, you're focused on more of a Six Sigma kind of aspect of it. You're an agile folk, whatever you are. I think first of all, having an appreciation of the knowledge that others have in other disciplines and the way in which they learn and the structures helps you kind of understand them better. And then it also, if we go at it humbly, that we go, hey, there are probably things that I need to learn or would be good to have an appreciation of and learn. Like if I come from an agile background, oh, how does this predictive stuff work? I know that I've never worked in that neighborhood, but like if I were to learn it, you're going to steal good things from it and vice versa. Like, oh yeah, I'm in heavy manufacturing, it takes forever, blah, 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 blah. But it's like the agile mentality, the servant leadership perspective, all those things. The one thing that PMI does really well is they're non-denominational. They're not like, oh, you must be XYZ. So they take it all in, they give you a broad understanding. And if you do it the right way, you can start to take those things in, put them into practice. So is it a good thing for people that are Lean Six Sigma guys and girls, agile folk, project management, or, aspiring in those neighborhoods? Yeah, I think it's a great thing. I think you should stack as many things up as you possibly can. I think this looks like a good one, like go to PMP, go deep, get green belt, work yourself up to black belt. Heck, if you're digging on it, go master black belt in time. You should go scrum master, product owner. You should think through these things, but not as like a passing tourist looking to get a stamp on your thing. It's like, can I use this stuff? Can I start stealing and using like an artist? I also like thinking about how we communicate. I've spent a lot of time thinking about, like, I present a lot, but it's not about me, but how do we communicate? Because these are talent stacks that will make you more attractive and make you more successful in delivering value for the people that are investing in you. How you communicate, how you present, how you do all these things. So these are all just bricks in your wall. So just, yeah, I'd say let's roll. Let's do more. And you'll get something from it.
I love it. That's awesome. All right. As we wind down for this episode, Is there anything that I missed? Anything you wish I would have asked you about the project
Oh, goodness.
or the PMI exam?
No, I think that's fine. I mean, it's a great exam. It's a great exercise. It can be done in a very positive way or a very structured, way that like leaves you longing. So just like choose your path wisely. Even if you make some wrong steps, ain't no big deal. Just find a way that matches your learning style, that you're really getting value from it, and then you can deliver that value out to the company and to the organization and to yourself and family. And that's the way I look at it. I loved you giving me the opportunity to talk. I'd love to talk to you guys again. I'd love to just be a fly on the wall and nerd out on other junk. And so like, we don't have to just talk PMP projects. I'm excited. If you want to talk Scrum and Agile and building digital stuff, that's what we do for a living now. So that'd be fun. So I'm game. And you guys can come on my podcast if you want to as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a pleasure to talk to you today, Scott. I really appreciate you coming on. I think the audience is just going to eat this up. There's just such a demand and a thirst for understanding project management and how to get through projects. So I do appreciate you coming on. How could people find you if they want to get in touch with you?
Well, I mean, All In PM Prep is my website. And then also my email is scott@allinpmprep, or my phone number is 757-759-5282. I'm the only guy that gives his phone number out. I don't care. They haven't come for me yet. If you want help, I'll give you help. Call me on the telephone. That's the simplest way. It's like we cut out the waste. You call me on the telephone, you email me. I'm there for you.
Love it. Cutting out the waste, a very lean approach to get in touch with.
Hold on. Let's cycle time or lead time. I don't know which one. This takes some time to go to the customer, but has there been a person on here that's gone a faster cycle time from you calling me to delivery of the podcast?
No.
Sweet.
In fact, no.
Yes.
And I would just say this about that is when I would listen to you, at the end of whatever it was I was listening to, whether it was on YouTube or whatever, you would give out your phone number.
Yeah.
And I always thought to myself, like, okay, does he have an answering service? What's going on? Because this guy can't really be giving out his phone number, but he seems super accessible. And when I was thinking about doing a podcast on project management or the PMP certification, I thought of you and I was let me just see. And I think I sent you a note, and in less than 2 minutes, I got a response back from you. And you wanted my phone number and you provided your phone number. And generally, like our steps, and maybe there's too much waste in our steps. I don't know. But, it's like, let's do a discovery call for a half hour. Wow. Learn about us. Learn about whatever it is. But I would say within 2 minutes, I got a response. Within 5 minutes, we were talking on the phone together, had a great conversation. And from the time I reached out to the time that we're doing this recording is, I think, 2 days. So
yeah, and we would have done it faster if schedules would allow. And mine was 7 years, wasn't it? But it's good. And so, like, I mean, I'll shut up whenever you want me to. But if we have like this is bonus, whatever, I've learned like do it now is better than do it tomorrow. Like right. In general, I know we talked about being disciplined, root cause, all that stuff, but like, hey, instead of saying when, like I've never like in business, I had an old partner that was like, sending an email, hey, give me some times that work for you. And then they send it back. And it was like, I'm not playing tennis. Set a meeting for 2:00. If he shows up, awesome, let's roll. If he doesn't, cool. Same thing here. If a dude wants to call you, give him your phone number. I already get telemarketers. Who cares?
Right.
They're smart. They're going to call me anyway.
Right.
But the people that really want to get help end up calling you. And I found it freeing personally to say, this is my phone number. And then people who need you and some people that don't need you call you. And then why not do it now? And then you end up engineering your life, I can only say, to be around the people that you like to deal with.
Well, that's awesome. We embrace our improvement nerd moniker. Yeah. We embrace the nerdism.
I like it.
And what you're talking about is rooted in a lot of lean concept. We're talking about cycle time or lead time, but the principle of Jidoka, which is stopping when something goes wrong and dealing with the situation as it occurs, rather than maybe batching and queuing those problems somewhere else and then getting to that later at some other time. Yep. I think what we don't realize in business sometimes is when you do that, you actually are creating more waste and adding more time by pushing that off. So if you're ever at work and you feel like I'm just too busy to deal with that right now, so I'm going to push that off. In lean, the concept is, nope, let's stop. Let's try to address it, fix it, and move on. And working in that approach, you get more done.
100%.
And that sounds.
Can you start to understand what your actual work in progress is?
Right.
Like what your capabilities are?
Yeah.
And then you start trying to make better decisions on the inflow in about what you can actually handle, what you should be handling. In life, I think you have to say yes until you can say no.
Yeah.
And so like I said yes a lot for everything until at the point now where I get to say no a little bit, because it's like, hey, we have a sustainable business, we have a thing going, we can be very selective in what we want to do. That's why I don't want to be as big as I usually possibly can, because I'm not ready for that. And so like, I think that everybody should think of themselves as an entrepreneur in business, like they work for Procter and Gamble. It's a ginormous corporation, but you should be an entrepreneur inside of it to deliver value, because you can be canned tomorrow. And if you think about like, hey, I have to find a way to deliver value fast, and you have to deliver on your word, life seems to get a little bit better. I'm not good at politics, but if you deliver on value, some people like you, I think.
All right. Well, that's awesome. I think you added a tremendous amount of value today to this conversation.
Cool.
Again, I do look forward to future conversations with you and future partnership even. So I think we have a lot to learn from each other, and exciting to get to talk to you and exciting to get to introduce you to our audience. My mom will appreciate it.
The mom's going, dude. That's awesome. My
With
mom
close family members.
Hopefully she stays for an hour and 5 minutes. I don't know if I can hold her for an hour and 5, but we'll see.
All right, Mom, if you got to the end of this, please comment at the bottom.
Yes.
But again, Scott, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
All right, dude. Thank you so much. See you, man.
And that's a wrap, Improvement Nerds. I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Scott Payne today and picked up a few ideas that will help you lead projects, strengthen your improvement work, and continue to grow as a practitioner. If you're interested in learning more about Scott and the work he's doing with All-In PM Prep, we'll include the links in the show notes so that you can connect with him directly. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, share the podcast with a fellow improvement nerd, and leave us a review. It really helps others discover the show and join the community. Until next time, keep improving, keep learning, and remember to leave your processes better than you found them.